Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus.
This is the story of how this shrine was built in 1917. This is what it was when it all began: a hill by a creek, and then they came, the people. They had crossed the Atlantic by ship, docking in New York. It was June when they arrived in Balgony by train. It had been a long journey from Russia. These German-speaking people had left their homes 1 month ago. There were 10 families and 7 single people. They were met by settlers who had come earlier to St. Joseph's Colony near Balgony. The very next day, they traveled into Regina. Even then, Regina was beginning to be the biggest center to do business. They applied for a homestead. Each family received a quarter of land of their own. In Regina, they also purchased some supplies and moved their few belongings to their own land close to Grotto. They set up the tents the government had supplied. Now the work began. There must have been times when they asked themselves why. Why had they come to this wide, empty country? Everything they did, they had to find a new way. Tents were pitched on the side of the hill. A storm hit. Guess what happened to their belongings? The challenge was to invent many uses for what they had. A wash tub could store dishes as well as wash them. It also made an excellent umbrella, or even a bathtub. Everyone helped to get the houses built. They found the wide open spaces of the prairie very lonely. They decided to build their homes in a colony. This is how they had lived in Russia. They called the first colony Catherinetal. They plowed land for crops and gardens. The following year, 2 more groups of people came. A priest would come and say Mass in one of their homes, but they needed a church. In their struggles, they felt a great need to worship together, so they built this little sod church. 3 years later, more settlers came. Some of the people built their homes in 2 other colonies. One was called Rastatt, later changed to St. Peters, and the 3rd colony was called Spire. Soon they needed a bigger church. A meeting was held. Each colony wanted their own church. The bishop said, 1 church for all of them. This caused a big argument. Many nasty words were exchanged between the colonies. The church was built in the middle colony. The bishop decided and settled the argument. this church was built in St. Peters Colony. Sunday mornings, the priest from St. Joseph's Colony, 12 miles north, would come to celebrate Mass. Then a new priest came, Father Metzger. He went to see the bishop in Regina with the people's request to have their own priest. The bishop said the debt on the church had to be paid off first. They did this immediately. That summer, this rectory was built, and who else? Father Metzger, a German-speaking priest from France, became the first priest. Strange as it may seem, the slope of a hill beside the church reminded Father Metzger of a shrine on the side of a mountain in his homeland in France. This was his dream, to build a shrine like this one in Lourdes in honor of Mary, the Mother of God. Could this be done on this barren prairie? By this many-bone creek? The people listened to Father Metzger and his dream, not knowing how much work this would involve. They said, yes, we will build a shrine. Before the work began, they went in procession to the hill. They sang hymns and prayed the rosary.
Gegrüßet seist du, Maria, du bist voller Gnade. Der Herr ist mit dir, du bist gebenedeit unter den Weibern, und gebenedeit ist die Frucht deines Leibes, Jesus.
The work began. They dug by hand with picks and spades. They scraped the earth with horse and scraper. Every weekday morning, you could hear the rumble of wagons coming. They came from all directions. Everyone helped. Women with the food and unloading stones. Youngsters had a lot of fun and sometimes made a nuisance of themselves. Stones were gathered from every quarter of land. From dawn to dusk, as they worked side by side, the bad feelings between the colonies over the dispute of where the church was built seemed to disappear. Daily, the hard work continued, and they were encouraged by the progress. The most difficult was the niche for the altar. Special stones had to be selected. Stones that would split when hit with a sledgehammer. Then trimmed to be fitted and wedged into each other. But finally, the last stone was in place. It was finished, amazingly, all in one summer. On August the 15th, 1917, they had the first pilgrimage. People came from far and near. They walked, came by horse, and a few cars. A big tent was erected to serve the people lunch. Father Metzger's dream had come true. They had built a shrine. Father Metzger died after serving the people for 33 years, at the age of 73. At his special request, he was buried in a spot he had chosen facing his beloved grotto. Every year since that first pilgrimage, people have gone down to the shrine to pray.
Thank you for watching this DVD about our pilgrimage site.
Currently, we have formed the St. Peters Heritage Society with the help of the RM of Lourdes and the permission of the Archdiocese of Regina. From this, the legal identity of the St. Peters Heritage Site was formed, giving the group the assurance to go forward with the maintenance and upkeep of this holy place. St. Peter's Church is now considered a chapel that can be used for religious services.
Our group has created a pamphlet for our visitors to share some of our history, but also our vision for this site. Our mission can be summed up into 3 main categories: to encourage our community, to preserve the buildings, artwork, and craftsmanship, and to encourage the use of our site.
Since our incorporation, we are amazed at the generosity and commitment of our group, but also the many people who have come out to help volunteer their time and talents to the preservation of this site. It is our hope that many more will be able to come to learn about our community and feel God's presence here.
The St. Peters Heritage Society looks forward to the future and hopes that we will continue to have a place that is welcoming to all our guests. We hope to share the gift of this holy place and its wonderful history for generations to come.